What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to the Mike Check Podcast. It's T Word, the People's Champ. Thanks for tapping in. Today we're talking about Canelo Alvarez in his recent fight against John Ryder, as well as who he might be seeking next to either defend his titles or pursue greatness. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate your feedback. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So, Canelo Alvarez fought John Ryder on Saturday, and we've talked about this on the live stream already, so I'm going to quickly recap the fight and then get into what I think is next, and also my thoughts on Canelo Alvarez overall and where he needs to go next in terms of his career. So during the fight, he was able to drop John Ryder at one point in the fight. He was in control throughout the fight. I don't know if I would call it a dominant performance as much as I thought he did what needed to be done. He faced an opponent who was overmatched in terms of skills, and that was enough to carry the night. It was a homecoming fight, and it's like, I don't know, the Jacksonville Jaguars had a good season last year, but let's just think about historically what the Jacksonville Jaguars have meant. If there were a homecoming in the NFL, you schedule the Jags. It's just certain teams you'd be like, you know what, put them on the schedule because we could definitely show out. All the subs will get to play. We'll put up a lot of points and we'll make the fans happy, and we're pretty much guaranteed to win. I thought that this was that type of fight, and even though it wasn't mandatory, John Ryder was tailor-made for what Canelo Alvarez does well, and he ended up victorious with a unanimous decision. One scorecard had it 120 to 107 because of the knockdown of Ryder. I thought that was a little bit ludicrous because I gave Ryder 3 rounds, and I thought that he was competitive in the last 2 rounds and one of the early rounds, I believe like round 1. So he basically started good and then he finished good, but in the middle, Canelo just beat his ass, including the knockdown. He had foot placement advantage over him on a regular basis, causing Ryder to fall 2 other times that weren't called knockdowns. So to me, Canelo did everything by the book, and it resulted in a victory. Now, my issue is, this wasn't a dominant performance because of what he was doing necessarily. It was because he had a lesser opponent. It was Ryder not being able to change his game up, bring in a different game plan that might offset what Canelo does well. He came in trying to apply his own game plan, and it just wasn't enough to get the victory, and he ended up in defeat. For the most part, I would say that anybody that tuned into this pay-per-view knew how the outcome was going to be, and there was no way Canelo was losing on the cards. Simple and plain. All right, so let's move forward into what's next and what I think Canelo as he currently stands. It's obvious over the last 3 fights, Bivol, Triple G, and John Ryder, that the Canelo that stepped in with Caleb Plant has faded significantly over the last 2 years. His skills are eroding. His head movement isn't there. His upper body movement has changed. And his footwork is gone. This is what happens when you're 63 fights in. This isn't saying that he's never been great. And I'm not going to say his ceiling was so high that when he starts to diminish that it just looks bad, because Floyd had a high fucking ceiling and he just dropped a couple levels below it, but he still was dominating because he had a very well-rounded skill set. Canelo's limited skill set at his peak, now when it's less than stellar, allows his opponent to look better, and it makes him look worse, because a guy like Ryder, 2 years ago, 3 years ago for sure, he probably stops Ryder. And Ryder's a tough son of a bitch. But the way that this fight went lets me know that Canelo has become a very limited one-dimensional fighter who's looking for the big shot. He believes in his power, especially at 168, and that's what he's going to live on. This isn't going to work against your younger fighters who might just outwork you and at some point catch you slipping, because he's also shown the propensity to gas out late. All right, so let's talk about what's next, the younger fighters. David Benavidez, I believe, has the best chance to beat him because he is younger, so he's going to have that gas tank throughout. And I think just that overwhelming pressure could cause some problem for Canelo. Now, I do believe that Canelo still has a path to victory in that fight, and we won't analyze it until they actually make it. But I'm not just going to say Benavidez gonna go in there and watch Canelo. That's just not how it works. He's too savvy of a veteran. He do understand what he needs to do when he go in there. He also understands the limitations. David Morrell. David Morrell lacks the experience that it's going to take to beat Canelo Alvarez or David Benavidez, and that's why I don't think I don't think he and Canelo will be at 168 long enough for it to happen. Hell, by the time I would say it's time for Morrell to fight Canelo, he's probably at 175 facing Bivol or something like that. But from a skill standpoint, strictly skills, he has it. It's just a little bit of skill and experience can overcome a lot of skill and a lack of experience. The savvy veteran often wins because he understands how to last for 12 rounds and look good for the judges. And I don't know if Morrell has mastered that yet. Then you think about Demetrius Andrade. Significant competition, but I don't know. I think he has the skills to beat Canelo. I just don't think they ever get in the ring. But if they do, I don't know how his chin holds up if Canelo is able to catch him and just pot shot him to death. But I'd like to see the fight happen. Jamal Charlo. Moving up to 68, you got to favor the bigger man. Canelo's already been at 68 for several fights. You got to favor Canelo, but that doesn't mean that Jamal doesn't have a chance, and I think that he's a better boxer at this point in their career, even though they're close to the same age. Overall, I just see the erosion in the skill set of Canelo, and I think that fights that he might have had a significant advantage, he now is in the 50-50, or even maybe he's 45 and the opponent is 55. So it's just tough to call. As far as him saying he wants to fight Bivol, he wants him at 175 because he wants to protect his legacy of having that undisputed reign. Because if he decides to retire from 168 without fighting any of these other guys we consider killers, he can say I retired undisputed. Fighting Bivol at 175, you don't have any risk. You're just going after his belt. And if you lose, you can say, hey, I was pursuing greatness. I dared to be great. But if you win, then you can say, hey, look at me. I've been a 175 champ twice. If you fight Bivol at 168, Bivol beat your ass and take them belts. In my opinion, it gets 175 moving and it gets 168 moving because Bivol is undisputed at one weight class, and then he has a mandatory path to the 175 undisputed championship against Beterbiev because he also has the WBO belt over there. So I see it as a good thing, but a lot of people don't agree. Me personally, I don't want to see Canelo fight Bivol at anything but 168. So we'd love to get you guys' thoughts. This has been T-Word for the Mic Check Podcast. Until the next time, I holla.